Star Wars. Hello guys, this is Vishar Scott again, writer and the creator of the Destiny Saga, and this is my personal video blog called Why I Created the Destiny Saga. I guess the last few posts I was kind of serious because I'm still trying to figure out how to bring out my sense of humor to these things, but there it is coming. So the last two are a little more serious. So right now I want to kind of get into one of the things that influenced me to write this in the first place. And as somebody who was born in the late 70s, of course, living in America, you come across Star Wars. But the way I'm going to come about it is a little bit different than what normally it is. I mean, of course, you got all the flashy spaceships and all the Wookiees and blah blah yakety yak. And as a kid, you're sitting there, you're like, wow, holy crap, blah blah blah. And you're sitting there like that. I mean, that stuff's like fantastic. I mean, my brain was. I just remember when I was a kid and watching it on TV because I didn't see it in the movie theater, unfortunately. I think the only one I seen in the movie theater when I was a kid was Return of the Jedi. But even then we sat all the way up in the front of the seat and we had to look up like this to go check it out. But I just remember the memory of it as compared to what I actually see now as an adult is that when you're a child your creativity is totally expansive. It's like this. And as you grow more and more into an adult, you start getting more like this as the world kind of breaks you down and you see everything for realism. However, the one thing that I took out of it personally, that now that I'm going to put that part of what my book is about, but not in the same way as it is that concept of you having a father or something that you've seen that was evil that you didn't like, and then you find out in the end that you came from that evil. But then later on you find out that that evil was good at some point, and it's very easy for you to follow that path. But you can turn away with it. You can turn away from it and redeem your father at the same point. Of course, I'm talking about the Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader storyline, blah blah. I think out of all the stuff that Star Wars is famous for, and don't get me wrong, the visual effects and mythical storytelling and all that jazz is fantastic. I do give Lucas and his team credit for, if there's anything that you want to argue that's substantial about Star Wars, is the whole ideal of Anakin Skywalker. Now, some people can argue how the execution of the movies were from the prequels to the classics or whatever like that. And sometimes I think with Star Wars, which at the end of the day, if you really want to keep it real, it is a children's film. I mean, although there are some mature themes in it, but it is, at the end of the day, a children's film. And I don't see anything. The psychological reality of it is kind of going towards there, except for Anakin's story, which I think is brilliant, but I'm going to get into that right now. So the concept of you not knowing your father, and not to get too personal, like I never knew my father in many ways. So I kind of latched on to that whole entire thing so I could relate to Luke in that way. I mean, everybody loves Han Solo being the cool guy, the badass guy, but I mean, it's whatever. I can't relate to that to a certain extent. But the factor of you wanting to do the right thing, and then you find out the world is not exactly what it is, and then even more so you find out your father was a huge jerk, and then the fact that you can bring him out of that is very a powerful thing. Like, I feel like my situation was, you have somebody who dipped out on you or left you, and you're stuck in this questionable phase when you're young. You're kind of like, was I worth it? Why is that person not there for me? All stuff like that. And a lot of that stuff really bothers you. So for me personally, what happened to me is that my father was a womanizer. So I kind of rebelled against that and I went the other way. Now, that's a whole nother blog in itself of people misunderstanding you trying to do the right thing for being a goody two-shoes. People have a issue with that. But I'll get into that in another chapter. But I rebelled against him. I always thought that, not to say, oh, I want to be a goody two-shoes or a duddy do-right, but it's almost like I always want to treat people how I want to be treated. And it looked like the same way where at the end of Return of the Jedi, where the Emperor wants to tell Luke, and I'm sorry for people who aren't in Star Wars, hopefully you can make some kind of sense of this, but there's this guy named the Emperor, and he was the one who corrupted Darth Vader. But the truth of the matter is Darth Vader corrupted himself because he made the choice to go to do the things that he did later on in life. So at the end of it, the Emperor kind of wants Luke Skywalker to go along the way with Darth Vader. And Luke looks at his hand, which got cut off, which is the same thing that happened to Anakin, which is my interpretation, and Luke has said it many times, but I interpreted before that, even though it wound up working out the same way, is that when Luke met his father, he lost a bit of his humanity, or a bit of his innocence, because his arm was chopped off, and that was like that metaphor for that loss of innocence. The same thing happened to Anakin in another movie. At some point, like his morals started getting more and more gray, and then he got his arm cut off. But a little bit more than Luke. Luke had at least had a hand cut off. Anakin had more than, he had like a whole arm cut off. So take that as you will. It's that sense of, I love rambling. It's awesome. It's the point of your father made a terrible mistake, but you see that mistake and you don't have to repeat it. You are your father's son, or you are your mother's daughter, or you are your father's daughter and your mother's son, whatever. You are who your you are who your parents are, but at the same time you have your own agency, and you don't have to be that. You don't have to follow that path. Everybody has their own flaws, and you can't come back from it. I mean, that's a powerful thing. As much as Darth Vader did that much damage in the world's never going to forgive us for a lot of things. I think, for me, just taking into it, like, revenge is almost empty, because you can't bring whatever transgressions that people have put against you, you can't bring it back. And it's very hard for people to forgive people, and I understand that. But if you repent within your heart, I believe, that all that matters. The world's never going to understand if you're really sorry for what you did, because the damage has already been done. And I don't wish any damage on anybody or anything, and I'm not saying that that people should not be punished because of their actions, but the revenge thing is an empty thing. And going through the movies, Anakin tried to do that revenge thing, and it did not work for him at all. It didn't work. And it's hard for us human beings to rise above that revenge and that hatred, and I want to hate everything in the world, blah, blah, blah. But we have that potential to rise above it. Like Luke had the potential to rise above his father's mistake, and he did. Anakin had that potential, but he gave in to his weaknesses. And I guess before I want to wrap this up, that's the main thing I got out of Star Wars, is the father and son thing. And you can redeem by you being a good person, you can redeem the mistakes that your parents made, and that's a very powerful thing. But that's a movie. In real life, it's much more complicated. And I guess if you do decide to read my book, you'll see some of that in there. So I hope you give my book a shot. And once again, like I want to say as every time, if you want to help out with this thing or whatever, I really appreciate it if you share this on your Facebook page or your Twitter or wherever you're at, because I'm trying to get as many people out there as possible. I hate begging for stuff. This is not begging because it is a business, but I'm trying to balance my artistic self with my business self. Believe me, I'd rather steer over 100% over to the artistic side, but the world does not work that way. So when I say these things, this is not really me talking. This is just me trying to get it out there, because I am more sincere than that. I don't want to shove my story down your throats. I really want people to enjoy it on their own terms. So if you don't mind sharing this and talking it up and spreading the word, that'll be awesome. And if you have any questions or anything, once you click onto that website that I have at the end of this post, I'm more than happy to talk to you or anybody else and spread the word. So, as I always say, peace and be blessed.